So, hello to all and welcome to the University of Roehampton, London Online. My name is John Tricker and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. In this session, you'll learn more about studying online and discover how it can help you achieve your goals. So in today's session will also be archived actually, so you'll be able to review anything you might have missed and would like to see again. It'll also allow you to pass the recording maybe on to a friend or a colleague as well. In the left-hand side of the presentation screen, you can also see a box for asking any questions you might have as we work through the session. So feel free to post your questions in there and we'll get to answer them a bit later during the session. So let's start with having a look at today's panel, the people who will be going through today's session with you. So myself, the moderator, as well as being the moderator, I'm also part of the student support team and work with online students who are working towards a degree. But more importantly, we also have a current student who's studying online with Roehampton. So hello Natalie, how are you today?
Hello, I'm good thanks, how are you?
Good, great to have you here, and it's great to have your insight into studying online and why you chose to study in Roehampton and how that's going so far. So let's have a look through today's agenda. So we'll be starting really with why do students choose to study online, and of course why did Natalie choose to study online, and then we'll be looking at who our students are, where they come from, their backgrounds, some of that information, and then also who is the instructor in terms of faculty who will be helping you through your classes and assisting with your learning. Then we'll be also looking at how to study online, what happens in a classroom, how do we actually learn in an online class, and then really the next steps, so in terms of applying and getting that information and preparing for starting. And then we'll have a really good question and answer section at the end where we'll be able to answer questions that you've maybe had through the session, and of course Natalie will be able to contribute largely to that as well. So let's start with Natalie and her story. So Natalie, when did you start your studies, and tell us a bit about your background.
Okay, so I am currently a teacher at the Sixth Form College in Farnborough, and I teach both business and economics. So it's my third year of teaching, and I had done my degree with Winchester in business and performance studies, and then decided I wanted to become a teacher, so did my PGCE through Greenwich, but whilst teaching. And then I finished my PGCE, and I wasn't quite ready to give up on learning something new. So I was having a little look around at different online courses, and that's when I found you guys. So I've just finished my third module now. So I started about a year ago, yeah.
So 3 modules done and quite a few to go, but definitely a wonderful start.
Yeah.
And you said that you started a year ago and you've been teaching for 3 years before that, before you then decided to do a master's degree.
Yeah, so for the first 2 years I was doing my PGCE, and then this is the third year where I've been doing the master's alongside teaching. Right,
okay, so it's a perfect time to start studying, and it definitely seems to be going very well so far, which is great.
Yeah.
And so with the students that you've been studying with over the past year, 3 modules, I mean, for a lot of students, when you look back in your education, the things you remember, as well as what you learned, is also the people that you studied with. And if, I mean, with studying online, how do you network with the students that you're studying with? And I mean, where are the students from? What's their interests? The ones you've interacted with in your modules.
You're encouraged to log on to Blackboard or Inspirenet every day. So it's as soon as I get near my computer at work, I log on. If I don't have, or if I know I don't have the chance to do any work during that day, I always make sure I log on. And part of each assignment is you have the shared assignment where you earn credits by actually interacting with your peers, and you gain knowledge from them, and then you question them. And that's kind of been a big part as to how you get to know your peers. For two of the modules, I ended up meeting two of the same students. There was Freddie and there was Christina. So it was quite nice to see them, and I always set myself a little challenge against Freddie to see if I could post my shared assignment in before him, but he used to always beat me. But it's quite amazing how well you connect with those people over the 12 weeks. We had one of our colleagues lost her mum while studying with us, and instantly we gathered around to make sure that she was okay. And you know, we're not going to be able to stop by and have a cup of tea with them, but you can still kind of show your support online. They do become your classmates, even though we've had South Africa, America, different parts of Europe, so all over the place, really.
Exactly, and it's amazing it's something I've experienced as well, working with students, but to hear you say that a lot of students might not expect to get that exposure or closeness studying online, but then with the platform and the fact that actually you're able to study together and challenge each other in an online classroom is definitely a great experience as well. So in terms of the reasons why you chose to study online, why did you choose online as opposed to studying on a physical campus? One of the main reasons was I couldn't afford to give up my full-time job. And I wasn't quite ready to not teach full-time. So I wanted something where I could be a little bit more flexible around my working schedule. And I knew I wanted to do something that involved education and something that involved technology. So when I came onto your university, I didn't even realise that half of the stuff I wanted in the course was there, but your course just kind of screamed out to me. So I'm doing the learning design and technology for the online masters. And it just meant that the timings of the module was perfect, the content of the modules was perfect, and I didn't have to then worry about traveling to and from a campus. I didn't have to worry about taking time away from my full-time job. I knew I could do it from the comfort of my own home or whilst I was at work. Yeah. Exactly. And I mean, of course, that's definitely the reason why many students choose to study online, because they want to, or in the majority of the cases have to continue working to do that. And and you said that you chose Roehampton mainly because of the course that you saw and how specific it was.
Yeah, I'd looked around at a couple of others, but yours just had everything I wanted from a course. Some were either too focused on education, or some I was expecting to code and stuff, which I'm not that level of understanding with technology. But yours kind of integrated everything I wanted from the two. Yeah,
exactly. So you're studying learning and technology.
Yeah, learning design and technology.
Design and technology, exactly. Okay. And how much? I mean, I know you live in the UK. I mean, how much did you know about the University of Roehampton and the College of Education, for example, before you inquired?
I didn't actually know that much at all. It had been one of my choices to go to the main campus way back when I was at college and applying for uni. But I hadn't looked into it too much. But I know I made the right decision coming through you guys. I felt so supported from the go and throughout. I've never felt. I think one of the myths with online learning is that you're just going to kind of be left on your own. But that hasn't happened at all.
Yeah, well, that makes me very happy. As part of the student support team, myself and the team, I hope we can take maybe some of the credit for you feeling supported.
Yeah,
definitely.
Definitely.
And the reasons why you studied, the reasons why that you wanted to study online initially, because you want to continue working and it's flexible in that aspect. I mean, after doing 3 modules, do you feel the benefits of doing that already and the flexibility with online?
I mean, I get to learn my way. So there's media and readings that get released to you during every unit within your module. But for me, I prefer to read it and take notes, so I can download the transcript for the videos. One reading I might particularly like, so then I try and find more, but I can take that route. It's not prescriptive. You're given the skeleton, and then it encourages you to go and find other readings or other work that supports it. And I like that I can do it sat in my comfy pajamas whilst getting some work done and not having to be in a classroom and always paying attention when maybe you're not in the right mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's in terms of flexibility-wise. I mean, well, in terms of as a teacher, you know that students learn in very different ways, and I suppose online learning gives people the opportunity to do that as well.
Absolutely.
So next, we're going to have a poll actually, just to find out from the people who are listening today. I mean, why are you hoping to study online? All right, what's your motivation for doing so? And you can answer the poll on your screen now. I believe it should be on your screen to answer, and then we'll see some of the results that we get from that. So it's either to advance your career or develop professionally, and allow you to pursue a doctoral degree, so really for academic purposes, or allow you to network with fellow working professionals as well. So if you just maybe none applies, but I mean I can see a pretty kind of clear distribution, standard distribution between the four, which is actually quite true in terms of my experience in working with online students. We do get many various motivations and reasons for doing that, so it's quite even across the four from the poll. So not surprising there. So let's move on in terms of the faculty members that are responsible for really teaching and leading the class, the modules that you're studying once you start your program. So Natalie, in terms of the faculty members that are responsible for teaching the class, how do you interact with the faculty? And I mean, really, where are the faculty members from that you've encountered?
So the way that they write the course, you can begin to pick up kind of little bits of their personality. They're all, the basic elements are the same, but the way they're delivered are just slightly different. And before the module even starts, they tend to release a little bit where you just give a bio about yourself, and the faculty members usually start by offering their one up first. So we've had Vasilis, who is from Greece. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Leroy, who was from the Caribbean. And then I feel terrible because Paula was my most recent, but I can't remember where she was from. But even outside of the work, they are the faculty members are always up for getting in touch on Skype, having webinars. Leroy was up for letting us WhatsApp him if we were worried. Email, they're so accessible, it's unreal.
Brilliant. I mean, that's again, studying online, especially when these faculty members are, and because maybe a lot of students would also think that the faculty are based in Roehampton as well, and only in Roehampton. But the good thing is, as well as students coming from all over, the faculty are also coming from various backgrounds, a lot of academic experience, but also professional experience as well. And is that something that you experience with the faculty that you've had so far? Did they also have a lot of professional experience to bring into the class?
Yeah, they encourage you to develop. That's the reason why they're so passionate about what they do. Leroy, for example, on our very first webinar, set out a little challenge that the first person willing to put their point forward, he then sent postcards to. So I've got my postcard upstairs, and there was Paula was another colleague at the time. She got one at the same time, so he sent them from the Caribbean. But they are happy to get involved, and they're always interjecting in the shared assignments because they're trying to challenge us the whole time. It's not, I've done all of this writing, now you get on with it. It's, well, have you thought about this? And maybe you should consider this point of view. Paula was amazing. There was one night where she said, do you just want a one-to-one to go over everything? And I said it would have been really helpful. And she said, yep, no problem. Let me just put the kids to bed and then I'll be in touch. So we then got to have half an hour, just her and I, going through my final project, which was so helpful.
Wow. Yep, definitely. It does help. And I mean, of course, it's difficult, especially when they're in different time zones and all over, but it's a great opportunity. If you can do that, to get that real-time feedback as well. And then talking about feedback, because you receive feedback on your work as you go as well. So like formative feedback for each unit that you go through in the module. Is that right?
Yeah. So the individual assignment, they aren't essential every 2 weeks, but I 100% recommend submitting them, because the feedback that you get then helps you out so much when it comes to the final project. It makes your life so much easier.
It does. Yeah. So you get that continuous feedback, but then also the quick questions, the things that maybe that is in your mind at that moment that you can hopefully get the answer to as well. And we discussed the professional experience that the faculty have, but I suppose the next thing is, from the 3 modules that you've done so far, and you've done very well in, I mean, what kind of skills within your program of those 3 modules do you feel you've been able to really take into your work on a daily basis?
Well, it's certainly made me consider how I approach both my colleagues at work and how I approach my students. And it was weird today, actually. I got approached about us possibly designing an online baccalaureate, looking at kind of the economics and financial aspects. And the reason why I was approached to maybe look at setting one up is because all of this master stuff is allowing me to progress in my career and take ownership of developing something that doesn't have to be a very prescriptive, lots of notes, lots of booklets that need to be handed out. I mean, we've already been able to use it. Last year we designed a CTEC course, which is a coursework-based subject. So it was all about business. And we designed everything online. Thought we were going to get 18 students to sign up, and we ended up getting about 80.
Right. Wow.
But it didn't make any difference, or we had to adjust the timetable, but it didn't cost us anything to set the course up because it was all online. So we were actually able to keep students with us because we designed this new course, which was quite cool.
Right. Which is good. So in terms of innovation, I mean, that's something that maybe some time ago wouldn't have been possible, having that number of students.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Very similar to an online classroom as well, I suppose. And so you mentioned, I mean, the number of students in the class that you're studying with and how you interact. But how do you act and interact in InspireNet? And InspireNet, just to give an insight into that, is almost like the online campus that is used outside of the classroom, like almost like being in the campus grounds. So it's more of a social environment that students interact in online before they log into online classroom. So what's your experience with InspireNet so far, Natalie?
So I haven't been very good at posting stuff on there, but I certainly like looking at what other people share, and it's always, we get nice motivational quotes.
Like Facebook.
Yeah. Definitely a looker rather than a poster, but I like that they have different posts that you wouldn't have gone out of your way to find. It was really helpful at the beginning as well, because they have all those different tests available, which just allow you to see if you're ready for online learning and if there's other things you should consider. There's other stuff which allows you to maybe see how your course is going to help with your career. So it's kind of a very supportive tool, definitely.
It is, and it gives a great sense of community. I mean, I only saw today, actually, I saw a student making a post in there saying that she's near the end of her program and she's just been offered a new job, like a promotion in her job. And I think there was maybe over 80 comments saying congratulations on that as well. So it's definitely a great sense of community. And I mean, not only do you get to see students that you're studying with, it's students in all programs all over the world. So it's a great sense of community in there.
Yeah.
Yep. So then, in terms of actually being in the classroom, you briefly mentioned earlier about going through each individual assignment and then kind of working towards the end of that module. So how does the module work in terms of how is it structured, and what do you really work towards by the end of the module?
So what's quite nice is that you get given the big picture right at the beginning of the module, so nothing's ever hidden from you. It's all available. You could rush through it all in a week if you wanted to, but you have the big picture and you have that final outcome straight away. And then they try and, or the faculty members want you to work to 2 weeks for the deadline. So Unit 1, you'd have 2 weeks, Unit 2, 2 weeks, and then eventually the module is 12 weeks long. So I try and in the first few days access all the readings and the media, download them, and I put them onto my Google Drive, so that that's just how I like to work. So I've got very pretty, colourful folders, but I put all my readings in there, so I've got it all sorted, and I make a note of my shared assignment, individual assignment, and then it's about trying to get the reading done within that first week, so that the second week can very much be spent on putting a decent post together, responding to colleagues on the shared assignment, getting the individual assignment together so that I can get that feedback ready for the final project. It's quite nice that I don't have to be working to a set time period. I don't have to be ready between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon to do work. I can be very flexible. So if I've got a free period at work, I might do a couple of the readings and make notes. Or if it's a quiet time and I don't have a lot of marking, I can maybe start on an assignment.
And that brings us on actually to how do you find the time to study? Because as you mentioned, I mean, you work full time, and I'm quite sure in terms of students starting their program, how do you manage your time, and where do you study as well actually?
So it's been a bit difficult sometimes, especially if I've got a lot of marking going on or we've had revision for exams happening. So there have been times where it's been a little bit tricky, but I don't have to, as I say, because I don't have to stick to strict time frames, I can just do a little bit here and there. And it means that, okay, sometimes I haven't given it as much time per unit, but I always make sure that that shared assignment is my priority, because that also helps colleagues. So it's not just about a selfish thing at that point. It's about making sure colleagues are also gaining from me and I'm gaining from them. But there have been times where I've been sat in lesson, and if they're getting on with an essay or they're doing a mock, then I'm doing a little bit of reading at the same time. Or I set my fiancé up on the Xbox, and then I get a little bit of time free. So it's just about being flexible and not having to stick to the traditions of, you know, being behind a computer or being sat in a library. You can put stuff on your phone, put stuff on your tablet, carry a little Chromebook around, and just do your readings as and when you can.
Yeah. So you're able to manage it, and it runs in, you could say, more in parallel with other responsibilities, rather than really infringing on that.
And that's what it is. It doesn't overpower everything. It does work quite nicely alongside other stuff.
Yeah. And we actually got 2 really good questions based on that from the Q&A session. So, how much time does Natalie spend on a weekly basis? Question.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you, because it changes from week to week. There's some where maybe I've only been able to give it possibly 4 hours, and then there's others where I get really stuck into a module. Particularly in Module 3, it was about leadership and like the human performance technology, that I got really stuck into it, and it ended up being my priority, and I spent a fair few hours. But yeah, I couldn't say for definite how many hours.
Right, because I think as a guide, I mean, in terms of actually the module and the requirements, we would say between 15 to 18 hours on a weekly basis. But as you say, I mean, when you actually study can be focused towards a certain time, and you might find that on a weekly basis it fluctuates as well, which is I mean, I can confirm is true for many students as well. It really fluctuates depending on what it is they're studying or how much time they might have from one week to the other. Because you mentioned earlier that the work is in 2-week units as well, so it means that you really have the time or the freedom within that 2 weeks to complete the work. And then another question that we have as well, in terms of, I think it was about the final project at the end of the module. You said that you complete the final project at the end, and is that a new piece of work, or is it something that you build on as you go?
So the final project is the Unit 6, so it's the last 2 weeks, so week 11 and week 12, and it will be building upon all of the other individual assignments that you've submitted on the previous units, and then there's usually one new section that you add to it. So what you're expected to do is go back to all those old assignments, make the changes, go through the feedback that you've been given from your faculty member, and then add it into, it might be a report, or we had a presentation that we had to do for this module as well. But it's about adding in those changes and trying to progress. And what's nice is that the final project, you get to see where you've kind of been at the beginning of the module to where you now are.
Ah, right. Good. So it's almost like the culmination, so you build up towards it, and then it all gets put together. Good. Exactly. So you mentioned earlier about how you felt very supported, and I mean, again, that made me quite happy. But in terms of so far, I mean, like, I suppose, why do you feel supported? What services have you used that make you feel supported so far?
Well, I had to deal with you guys quite recently because there was a bit of a mix-up with my modules. I think there was too few numbers on a particular module, so they swapped mine round, and it meant that I wasn't enrolled on the following module. So I got in touch, and basically when I got through to you guys, you put my mind at ease. I ended up speaking with a lady called Sarah, and it turned out she remembered me, that she had actually enrolled me right at the beginning. And she had, right at the beginning, she spoke me through kind of my finances and how I pay for each module, what I need to do to apply.
She was an enrollment advisor at the beginning.
And then she swapped over, It was really weird that I got her again.
Yeah.
But yeah, she remembered me, which is really nice, because she probably deals with thousands of students.
Yes. No, it's nice as well. I mean, so you worked with an enrollment advisor at the beginning, but then now you really work communication-wise with the student support team as well. Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
definitely.
Well, it's good to hear that you feel definitely supported. So now let's have a look and see about the questions, the other questions that we've received. So we've quite a few actually about the online classroom and the schedule for studying. We had a question asking for Natalie, are there set times when you need to gather for lessons? Are there set times when you need to be online to gather for lessons?
No. So in the module, I think Leroy had maybe 2 Skype sessions where he'd like us all to get together, but it wasn't essential. Paula, I think, had 3, and in the end, on that final one, nobody else turned up. It was just me and her, so she said, it's probably not worth it. I'll call you at a better time. So there's only there's optional kind of Skype sessions or webinar, but the shared assignment is just like a forum. So you post when you're online, you respond when you're online, you go back a couple of hours later, maybe someone else has responded, but you don't have to be online at a set time, no.
Okay, so there's the optional live sessions where you can be on, and I believe they're recorded as well. Any session you might miss, you can go back and view the recording as well.
Definitely, that's really handy.
Yeah, and the shared activities, because even though you are working and responding to each other, it's not. I think the word is asynchronous. So even if you're working together, it's maybe over the course of the unit where you're posting and responding.
Yeah, so we're encouraged to not ever go back to a previous unit. So try to always stick with the 2 weeks. So making sure you're not going back to Unit 1 when we've moved on to Unit 2. But ultimately, you are working within that assignment for the full 2 weeks of that unit.
Right, okay. And then what's another question that we have is, so an interesting question about the materials in the class and the reading. So do you read all the materials in the unit? Because I'm worried that I might have no time to read them all.
I found a sneaky little trick. So where I put my readings into Google Drive, I then tend to start by doing the basic Control F and then finding some keywords and having a little read around that to start with. And then if it's something that I think I can particularly guide
Right.
guide my work from, then I'll go back and I'll read the more intensive stuff. But that's how I screen out some readings, because you go onto the library and you just have access to so much material that it's always going to be handy. So that's my basic. Read the introduction or the executive summary, using Control F to find some keywords, and then deciphering if it's going to be helpful or not. I also find it more useful where there's videos that are posted. I sometimes zone out a video, so I download the transcript and again use that as notes rather than using it as a video.
Okay. So as you said, a different type of learner videos are not for you. The readings
No.
better. And you mentioned the skim reading as well, and I mean it's something that I think is a skill that develops while studying. I mean, I would say any new students coming in, it's crucial to get into the habit, because a lot of students maybe haven't studied in a long time. So really getting into the habit of reading a lot again in those early stages, and then you start to learn ways and how to really be more efficient with the time you're using. And as you say, Control F and skim reading is are definitely useful ways in terms of doing that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then another question we have. So, working as a full-time teacher, does it mean that you attend classes in the evening when you have time? Or it's similar to the last about the scheduled classes, but then really over a week, how does your schedule? If you're working Monday to Friday or during the day, how does your schedule look, and how do you manage that?
So I do thankfully have some space within my timetable. So if I have a period and I've planned my lessons, then I can do uni work at work, which is quite nice. But in the evenings, it's just about trying to find an hour here and there. I know some people are doing the course that have younger kids, so they tend to wait until they've been put to bed and then do some a bit later on. I mean, some people become nocturnal. You see posts being put on at 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. But for me, I prefer to come back from work, and I'd rather stay active. So I tend to get started from about 4:30 in the afternoon, and then about 6. That's when I'm kind of like, right, I need to do some other bits and bobs around the house or cook dinner or whatever. But it's quite tricky getting used to it, but it becomes more natural as you work through the units and as you work through the modules. It certainly just becomes part of your routine. You don't even think about the fact that you're putting time aside for uni work. It just becomes something that, okay, I've got to do that now, or you want to do that now.
Exactly. That's it. I think one of the key words that you said there was prefer. When you said about I prefer to study at this time, and that's I mean, when students do start studying, and things take a lot longer in the beginning, and you maybe find it's taking more hours, but then it gets to a point where you realise the times that you prefer to study at, where you're at your most productive. And whether that is 1 o'clock in the morning or when you get back from work, I think that's the preference is the best thing, is the main thing. And so earlier you mentioned about the support and I suppose the people that you spoke with, but then in terms of the resources that are available online, like for example the writing centre, have you registered for the writing centre or used that at all?
I haven't done yet, purely because I think I became more aware of it towards the end of my last module. So I'm on a break from modules at the moment, but when it comes to module 4, I'm most certainly going to be making use of that.
Yeah, and it's I've actually had quite a few students say that, and it is a really good, quite a new service to students, where there's writing tutors who are really specialised in various things, whether it comes from really like academic skills such as citing and referencing and ensuring that's correct and getting guidance in that, or even maybe the more advanced skills of academic writing, like really how to formulate arguments and how to really convey your thoughts in a really academic way, and the formatting of that. Knowing the difference between your argument and waffle. I think that's going to be the key thing. Exactly. And it really, regardless of how comfortable people feel with academic writing, there's always room for development in there. always room, and the Writing Centre is a great tool for that. So in terms of the students who are listening at the moment as well, and what the next steps really are for students. At the moment, you may have been communicating with an enrolment advisor, and they'll be answering many questions, and you'll be looking at maybe the website to get that information. And I'd say at the moment, as a first step, the best thing is really to communicate with the enrolment advisor, send through your CV, discuss maybe what program is going to be best for you, and then also when you'd like to start your studies as well. It's a really crucial thing. So really, after you've had a good conversation with your enrolment advisor, those initial things have been discussed, and you think that's a program for me, and I'd like to start then, you can of course move into the application stage. And for the application, you'll be doing an online application form on the website, and also writing an ambition statement. So why do you want to study the program? What's your reasons for applying online, even with Roehampton? And you'll also need to submit this to your enrolment advisor for your application. And then hopefully, after that's all been done, your application would be successful, and you'd be able to really start getting prepared for starting your program whenever that may be. So really, in terms of preparation, you need to complete what's called a student agreement, which is just a document you need to review, make sure everything's correct and send back, and then make that initial payment for the first module. And then preparation-wise, the good part starts, and you'll be able to join InspireNet, and you'll also be able to start all of the readiness activities or induction activities that we have as well, and that they come in the form of various webinars that you can attend, and also an actual faculty-led classroom that you'll be studying in before you start Module 1 to use the platform and get ready for starting on the start date. And the next start date at the moment is the 30th of June, and there's still time to apply for that. And also, with Roehampton, as you're moving through this phase of inquiring and applying to the programme, it's also worthwhile noting that we also have a wonderful referral programme as well for students. I mean, I know in working with students who are studying in the programme, when they're studying with friends, studying with colleagues that they know, it's as well as having students to study with in the class, it's a great experience to be studying with someone you know. And Roehampton definitely acknowledges the fact that these students really have a better experience as well. So if you refer someone to start the program, you can get a reduction of $1,000 on your fees, which is wonderful. And if your friend starts on the 30th of June, friend or colleague starts then they will also receive a $500 reduction on their fees as well. So I suppose as well as getting the experience of studying together, it's also quite a good financial incentive as well for doing that. And I mentioned that the next term start is on the 30th of June, so not too long away, but there's definitely really good time and really good preparation resources to be done. And I believe before the 3rd of June, so say maybe just over 2 weeks from now, if your application is accepted and the student agreement is sent back to your enrolment advisor and that initial fees are paid, then you will also save $1,000 over the total tuition fee for the program. So as well as the possible referrals that continue through the program, you can also save $1,000 by really enrolling and doing those initial things before the 3rd of June. So it's definitely, I mean, if you get a chance today, maybe ask your enrolment advisor more questions about that, and I'd say get your application in as soon as you can, so you can start all of your preparation work. So I'd just like to say really thank you to everyone who's tuned in, and thank you to everyone who's been listening, and I hope it's been a very interesting session and you've learned. I mean, I can confirm I've learned quite a few things from Natalie today. So I'd just like to say thank you very much to Natalie for taking time out of her schedule to come and share her insights. So thank you very much, Natalie.
Well, thank you for having me.
Good, and I hope you enjoyed the session as much as I did.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, and I just want to reiterate again that this session is recorded, so you will receive an email with a recording, which you can share with anyone as well. And of course, any other questions you might have at this time, your enrolment advisor for now is the best source of information for that. So you can definitely contact your enrolment advisor. So thank you very much for tuning in, and good luck with your next few days.